welcome back to Silver Age Silver Screen, the show where we discuss, rate, and review film adaptations of comics, anime, video games, and other stereotypically geeky works. I'm one of your hosts, Casey Jarmes.
And I'm your other host, Riley Thorpe.
You know, we like superhero comics. We think superheroes are cool, but they aren't always cool.
No.
Because when you're a medium that has existed for 80, arguably longer years, you're gonna get some clunkers in there. Some absolutely mind-numbingly stupid, idiotic, lame characters. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. Especially when you have such a revolving door of writers that are coming through and making these stories and creating these characters. It offers a lot of new creative ideas and a lot of new perspectives to join the story and join the universe. But at the same time, with every good idea, there's eventually going to be a bad idea. And we are here to talk about that today.
And lame characters aren't necessarily bad. I actually enjoy some of these characters a lot because they're lame, but their lameness makes them funny, like they're a joke villain for a superhero to take out in a cold open or whatever. And lame characters don't just have to be for comedy. You can have it where a character starts out lame and eventually becomes really cool, like Neville Longbottom from Harry Potter. You can have a character whose lameness is used for drama and as part of their development, like I think of Moomin Rider from One Punch Man. And we've mentioned on this show before, there are examples in comics of lame characters later becoming cool. Like, I think in our last discussion, I talked about how I like how that's happened with Sportsmaster. You've discussed weeks ago how it happened to Sue Storm, with her going from just a damsel in distress to blowing up people's heads.
Right. There's a sense of charm to characters that are quote-unquote lame, silly, wacky, hokey, cheesy. There's a sense of charm to that where it's like it's the same for when how people like really bad movies. If a movie's so bad it's good, and there's a sense of enjoyment that you can have once it's so bad it's good. At the same time, there are characters that can start out really lame and cheesy, but then end up really cool. But then there's other characters who they just stay lame, but there's a sense of likability to that. But at that same time, there's also characters who are just lame, no one likes. Why the hell are we still doing this?
And this list is gonna be about the ones who have stayed lame.
Today we're going to be counting down our top 5, or well, really bottom 5 most lame comic book characters in history. Now, before we get started, I think we should discuss and sort of explain our idea of lameness. How I define the characters for my list is I think they're characters who are, by just the definition of who they are, they're just terrible ideas. And you have to be crazy to think about them, and for some reason they're reoccurring characters. So they have to be stupid, or they have to be a very bizarre, arguably idiotic concept, while also being a returning character that's like, okay, why do you still keep trying to make this a thing? Because upon research of my list, I've come across a lot of characters that are like, that is so stupid, but the writers knew that, and they only did them as like a one-off thing.
Looking over my list, my number 2 was a one-off joke, but all of the other ones have had at least 2 appearances, at least attempting to be serious characters.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just for my list, personally, I went with characters that, as far as I know, have done at least 2 or more appearances. Some characters that just barely didn't make the cutoff for me, so these are my dishonorable mentions. Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who was very much so made popular by the 2016 Deadpool film and its sequel, where she was, again, played as like a joke character with a stupid name. But the fact of the matter is, despite the fact that she was made popular in that, in the comics, she was a one-off character that was so bad, had a horrible name, and they tried to play it off as serious. her powers in the comics are nothing like they are in the films. In the film, she has more along the lines of cannonballs, the ability to charge up energy and explode, whereas in the comics, she just has vague psychic abilities, and she's a lame character, and she has a terrible name, and everyone hates her. One character that he's not even really much of a character, it's a joke that I'm like, that's so stupid. Bat Cow.
Oh, God. Yeah, I know Batcow. Correct me if I'm wrong, that Batman and Damian Wayne were out one night and they fought some villains at a farm, and Damian was like, "Look, father, there is a cow that has a bat symbol on its fur. Let us adopt it and keep him in the bat cave."
That's exactly how that happened. So again, it's like not even much of a character, it's just a cow with a bat symbol on its face, and it's stupid and funny, but that's why I put it as an honorable mention.
For my dishonorable mentions, one character I was very close to putting on this list, but didn't, would be the character Forget-Me-Not, who's a very minor X-Men character whose ability is that people can't remember him after they look away from him, including his friends and loved ones. And he doesn't really have any combat abilities, and he's basically just constantly miserable because he can't have any lasting relationships. Although I decided against putting him on there because his one major appearance that I've seen was actually really written and went into the fact that his powers basically ruin his life and he's really depressed by it.
Is he a Marvel or DC character?
He's Marvel. He's a mutant.
Okay. Okay, yeah, and that's another thing that I found in my research is that of these 5, I have 3 Marvel, 2 DC. Of the 3 Marvel, 2 of which are mutants. And that's something I found in my research, is these X-Men writers, they push it as far as it will go, and they come up with some weird stuff. Like another character that was on my honorable mentions was I Scream. I as in eyeball, and scream as in, scream. So it's I Scream. Now, Casey, I ask you, with a character with that name, eyeball, scream, just I Scream, what do you think his powers are?
My guess would be like a Cyclops knockoff, but instead of force, it's like sound out of his eyeballs, and also it hurts him and he screams. I don't know.
Yeah, you would assume that, right? That's what his name sounds like. No. His mutant ability is that he can transform his body into any flavor of ice cream.
Oh my god, that's so much worse.
I know. He was so bad, he only appeared in 1 issue.
Oh god.
And that's why he didn't make the cut for me, because he was just in one-off thing. Another character I had on my honorable mentions is Bouncing Boy. Now, he actually made an appearance in, I believe, Justice League Unlimited.
I do remember there being like a Legion of Superheroes episode, but I don't remember which ones were featured.
Bouncing Boy has the ability to inflate his body to essentially become a human beach ball. That's his power.
Yeah, but he's actually cool and good at combat because he just bounces around and slams into people.
Right, that, and in recent years, from what I understand, he's been more of a joke character, like more of just a funny, silly, comic relief type character, and for that reason, he's in my honorable mentions, or dishonorable mentions.
The Legion of Superheroes, perhaps even more than X-Men, has some really dumb joke characters, and I have a few further on my list, but they're the comic that gave us Bouncing Boy, Matter Eater Lad, whose ability is he can eat stuff, and Arms Fall Off Boy, who's gonna be in Suicide Squad, played by Nathan Fillion, and I'm so excited for that, because he's such a dumb character, and it'll be fun.
And Nathan Fillion, you know he's going to do a good job at that. You just know, because he's a good actor.
Oh, for those who don't know, Arm Fall Off Boy's power is exactly what it sounds like. He has the ability to make his arms fall off, and then he just uses them as blunt weapons. It's dope.
Another one of my dishonorable mentions, my last dishonorable mention, is Bailey Hoskins. And I believe we've talked about this. If he doesn't sound familiar, for those of you who don't know, have you ever heard of the storyline Worst X-Man Ever?
Wait. Is that like the guy from Ultimate X-Men who had the ability to make everyone within a mile radius of him die, and then the X-Men just sent Wolverine to murder him?
No, but I really want to know about that character now.
That's another honorable mention, I'd say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Who's Bailey Hoskins?
So he was a kid, he was like 12 or 13. He was picked on in school, not very well liked, he wasn't very popular. He dreamed of being a superhero because he loved and idolized the X-Men. And then one day, Hank McCoy and Charles Xavier show up to his house. Hank McCoy and Charles Xavier, being Beast and Professor X, show up to his house and tell him that he is a mutant. And he is overjoyed. He's so excited. Finally, I have superpowers. And Beast tells him, after running some tests, that Bailey's superpower is that he can explode, but he can only do it once because it will kill him. And the entire story is this 13-year-old kid with the worst superpower ever, just living his life as an X-Men member. The reason why I put him on my dishonorable mentions is because he's supposed to be a joke. Like, it's supposed to be bad. It's a well-written story. It's supposed to be bad. But as a character, when your superpower is you explode once and die, not the greatest. I just wanted to say there's a lot of characters on here that a lot of people will go after as being like the worst, one of the worst characters ever. Like a couple characters that often get talked about when we go over the subject matter like this. Characters like Jubilee, Cypher, Sportsmaster, they all have this reputation of being terrible, but honestly, there's a lot of cool stuff with them.
Yeah, for instance, Jubilee, she's like a teenager who can make fireworks, and oh, that's dumb. Except in the comics, there are writers who have used her right and pointed out the fact that she has the ability to blow stuff up. She is not a weak character.
Yeah, she shoots fire and explosions at people. What's lame about that?
Yeah. You know what's another example of a character that people say is weak and lame who isn't?
Well, who's
Mr. McSpitlick from Superman. Who,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a cheesy comic relief villain, but also he's meant to be a cheesy comic relief villain. And also, there's a story called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which was written as a sort of send-off to Silver Age Superman because they were doing Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it was written by Alan Moore. At the end, it's revealed that Mr. McSpitlick is actually the real villain, and it shows him as this eldritch, nightmarish horror, because that's what he is. He's a being from an alternate universe that has godlike power and just messes with people for fun. He is a genuinely terrifying character.
Yeah.
For an example, in canon, there was a story called Emperor Joker, which was what would happen if someone who was more sadistic got McSpitlick's powers, that being the Joker, and it has Joker becoming God and killing everyone.
Another character that a lot of people talk shit about is Cypher, who's another X-Men. He has the ability, I believe, to understand any and all languages, including alien languages and technological languages like computers and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's a really good programmer. Also, not a great combat ability, but when you live in a universe where Earth is regularly visited by aliens, having a translator is pretty useful.
Yeah, exactly. In a situation like that, a character who can literally understand what anyone is saying, that's pretty useful. Not the most useful in a fight, absolutely, but still. You and I mentioned Sportsmaster earlier. He is a character, again, started off as like a jokey, cheesy, gimmicky Batman villain, but I believe it was in the Injustice... Young Justice, that's it. I believe it was in the Young Justice animated show, they made him like an actual assassin who uses sports-themed weapons, but he's like throwing javelins, and he's using those to like actual good effect. And
yeah, just remember, boxing is a sport, archery is a sport, shot put is a sport. Don't mess with Sportsmaster.
No, not at all. Another character that a lot of people they say is pretty bad, but in actuality is pretty cool, is Danny the Street. Now,
what? What?
He's a Doom Patrol character, so right there, you know it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be bizarre and crazy and just acid trippy. Danny the Street is a sentient street, complete with a road, sidewalks, and buildings. He can psychically communicate with people and teleport himself wherever he wants to go around the world. And at a point in the comics, I don't know exactly how this happened, but he gained enough power to evolve and grow and become Danny the Planet. and he was a sentient planet. And then somehow in that same story, I believe it was, he exploded for whatever reason, and he was reduced to Danny the Brick, where he's just a sentient psychic brick. And it's so bizarre and so crazy, but it's Doom Patrol, so it's that on purpose.
Any more dishonorable mentions?
Yes, Kite Man, actually. What I mean by that
Kite
is, Kite Man is lame. He is lame and stupid as shit. He knocked out Batman with a kite one time. His name is Charlie Brown. Like, like, he's lame, don't get me wrong. But in the recent storyline, The War of Jokes and Riddles, he was a father who lost his son in a tragic accident and took the name Kite Man because he was wrapped up in a war in between the Joker's gang and Riddler's gang. He lost his son. In order to honor his son's memory, of which him and his son would fly kites together, he took the name Kite Man as a superhero to fight alongside Batman against the Joker and the Riddler in the name of honoring his son. He's still lame as hell, but he's a very well fleshed out character in recent years. Then they killed him off, and who gives a fuck? But point is, they actually were able to take a lame character and actually do something well with him. That's pretty much it for my dishonorable mentions. Without further ado, let's get right into our top 5 lamest comic book characters.
To understand my number 5, we need a little bit of history lesson. Back in the 70s and 80s, Marvel used to do a lot of comic book adaptations of other media. They had a Star Wars comic, a Conan the Barbarian comic, a Transformers comic, a Star Trek comic. They had a comic book adaptation of 2001: A Space Odyssey, drawn by Jack Kirby, which I kind of want to track down because it sounds amazing. Anyway, Marvel also had a comic book adaptation of US-1 for some reason. Riley, do you know what US-1 is?
No, I do not know who US-1 is, but I agree with you. I would really much like to track down that 2001: A Space Odyssey story. But no, I don't know who US-1 is, or what US-1 is.
Well, who is not the right term. US-1 was a brand of slot car trucks that went bankrupt 3 years after the comic came out. And they were just trucks. They weren't like He-Man or Transformers. They didn't have characters. It was a brand of toy trucks, like Hot Wheels.
Okay.
Well, not like Hot Wheels. It was like on motorized tracks. But anyway, Marvel decided to make a comic book adaptation of this characterless toy truck brand.
Okay.
They decided to make a superhero comic adaptation.
Oh boy.
Ulysses Solomon Archer, aka US, was an ordinary trucker who came from a family of truckers and was really into trucking, like insanely into trucking. Like, he was a genius engineer who graduated magna cum laude from his college, and then became a trucker because he just really likes trucking. And I mean, not to insult truckers, they're the backbone of this nation, I have a ton of respect.
Absolutely.
But I mean, being a high-paying engineer probably, pays better than being a trucker.
Yeah.
Anyway, one day US and his brother were driven off the road by an evil trucker with demon powers. US's brother died, and US cracked his skull open and had to have surgery, and the doctors put a metal plate in his head that, by coincidence, gave him the ability to pick up CB radio frequencies with his brain.
Okay.
That is his superpower. His only superpower. He can hear the radio with his brain.
Okay.
US then did what any normal person would do. He used his engineering skills to build an over-the-top James Bond-esque murder truck.
Naturally.
And became a trucking-themed superhero and set out to avenge his brother. Again, his only power is that he can hear the radio. Admittedly, he uses his hearing the radio ability to mind control his truck, but, I mean, just get a remote control, dude.
Right.
It's a lame power. US-1's rogues gallery included a German dude who was really into blimps, a
Right.
Catwoman knockoff, and his arch enemy, the Highwayman, an evil trucker who sold his soul to Satan for infinite dark power, which he only uses to harass one random trucker. Which, honestly makes the Highwayman arguably lamer than US1.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, US1's adoptive parents were named Papa Wheelie and Wideload, because of course they were. They
Mm-hmm.
owned a truck stop. The universe of US1 revolves around trucking.
You know the Lego movie?
Hmm.
That could have been god awful. That could have been this. That could have been US1. That, like, you're taking nothing, a toy with no story, no character, no nothing, and you're adding story to it and adding character to it. And it's like, Lego Movie is a perfect example of how to do it and how to do it well. This is the worst case scenario. This is
Yeah.
ungodly stupid. I'm like in
Yeah.
shock. I didn't know. I had never even heard of this.
Yeah, and the first half of US1 is awful. It is just so dumb, so lame. But to the series' credit, in the final couple episodes, they realize, wait, this is the dumbest idea anyone's ever had. Let's just go balls to the wall. And spoiler warning, at the end of US1, it's revealed that the Highwayman is actually US's older brother, who faked his own death to get revenge on his little brother for being smarter than him. And the series ends with US being hired by aliens to be a space trucker. And honestly, that almost saves US1 from being lame.
Yeah.
And you know what's the wildest part about US1?
What?
Everything Marvel Comics publishes is canon to Marvel Comics.
Right.
Doctor Strange's mentor, the Ancient One, has a cameo in the first issue. Also, the Satan figure that Highwayman got his powers from, implied to be Mephisto. After the series was cancelled, US1 has appeared a few times in the Marvel Universe. He was a reoccurring character in Sensational She-Hulk. The Highwayman fought Deadpool once.
Naturally.
And the last appearance of US1 was in New Avengers, where he applied to be a nanny for Luke Cage and Jessica Jones.
Wow. Okay.
And that is the last anyone ever saw of US1, the trucking-themed superhero who can hear the radio with his brain.
I mean, I give them props for creativity. Papa Wheelie and Wide Load. They got imagination. I'll give them that. But, god damn, I don't even know what to say. And it's a part of the main Marvel universe, so it's like, okay.
So, Riley, at the end of each of these, we're going to be having this discussion. Do you think this character could ever not be lame?
They would have to certainly play it for satire and comedy, or they would have to like completely change everything about it to make it like something that's not stupid. Like a toned down version of this would essentially be Fast and the Furious. And when Fast and the Furious is toned down version of anything, you know you've got something special on your hands. Like,
yeah, I think US1 might be able to work if they brought him back and really went into the space trucker with a super truck thing, and his brother sold his soul to Satan and they hate each other. That could work, but I don't think we'll be seeing a US1 movie, or really US1 anything anytime soon.
no, honestly, that kind of reminds me of the more recent Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, I believe.
Mhm.
He's a Ghost Rider. He has a car, a Dodge Charger, I believe, and he's got a brother, and it reminds me a lot of that. It's just, again, it's the worst possible thing of what it can be.
Also, on the topic of Robbie Reyes and Ghost Rider and lame characters,
Yeah.
although this one is what I kind of like, when they introduced Robbie Reyes as the third or fourth or whatever Ghost Rider, they gave him a car
Right.
instead of a motorcycle, and justified it by saying the Ghost Rider just has to be a rider. He's ridden a bunch of things throughout history, and showed a flashback to Ice Age Ghost Rider riding a flaming mammoth, which
Of course.
is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, that is awesome, actually. I really want to see that.
So, what's your number 5, Riley?
My number 5, funny enough, you actually mentioned him earlier, is Matter Eater Lad. He is a DC hero. He's an alien, and this is his backstory. His name is Tenzil Kem. He is from the planet Bismol. Get it? Bismol? Pepto-Bismol? Because he
Oh.
eats?
Ugh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it's a play on abysmal, which is what he is.
Yes, he is both. Both of those are very, very true. He comes from an alien species that can eat any and all matter in any form, in any state. They can seemingly eat an infinite amount of it. So he comes to Earth and he becomes a superhero And his ability is he can eat anything. You need to defuse a bomb, Matter Eater Lad is gonna eat it. There's a meteor coming to Earth that's gonna kill everyone. Matter Eater Lad takes a space shuttle up to the meteor and he eats it all before it can strike Earth. Now, he has actually he's a part of a team, I don't recall the team off the top of my head now.
Legion of Superheroes.
Legion of Superheroes, that's it. Thank you, Casey. Now, when your superpower is eating everything, and that could potentially be useful in a situation where, say, you're captured and you need someone to help you escape, theoretically, a character like that could be useful. However, his entire power is nerfed. His kryptonite is a Hannibal Lecter mask. That's Matter Eater Lad, and he's a part of the Legion of Superheroes.
So, Riley, could Matter Eater Lad ever be not lame?
One thing I've discovered on my research is that if your power involves eating, like that's your power, that's really hard to make work and not be stupid. I suppose there were some examples that I brought up, like eating a meteorite before it strikes Earth, defusing a bomb by eating it, but I really don't think this character could be anything other than just a joke.
Yeah, I mean, he has a niche, but it's
Right.
such a shallow niche. And it's a good thing that he's a character on Legion of Superheroes, which, I mean, it's just a big team of heroes, so just call on him when he's needed. Don't call him any other time.
Again, it's like, oh, he can defuse a bomb by eating it. Like, what? When are we gonna ever need this guy? And like going into a situation, oh, we might need to defuse a bomb. Let him eat it. Like, what?
Although, I will say, Matter Eater Lad is the best superhero to call on if Ice Cream ever starts starting shit.
You are absolutely right. To answer your question, no, I don't think Matter Eater Lad can ever be really useful, except maybe in some like Marvel Ruins style dystopian future where he's just this crazy cannibal. Even at that point, it's a joke.
My number 4 is the Avengers villain, Meccano Marauder. When it comes to discussing how strong a villain is, the thing to think about is, well, how strong are the heroes that fight them? For instance, the Joker would be pretty lame if he was an enemy of Superman, but he's an enemy of Batman, which is a much fairer opponent.
Right.
Squirrel Girl's whole thing is that she's a weak character in concept, but she's really strong because she's beaten people like Thanos and Galactus.
People underestimate her because she's so stupid, and she takes advantage of that underestimating.
Yeah. Meccano Marauder, who, by the way, his name is such a mouthful.
Oh, yeah.
Meccano Marauder is lame because of who is able to defeat him. And we'll get to that to the end.
Okay.
Fabian Stankiewicz, aka Meccano Marauder, has the deepest, most complex motives in all of comic books. He wanted to be famous! And he won the lottery, so he did what any sane man would do. He bought a suit of power armor and became an Avengers villain. Because, you know, when you first start out as a supervillain, what you want to do is go after the absolute strongest superhero team in the world. Naturally, Meccano Marauder got his ass kicked again and again because he tried to take on the Avengers. But the thing is, Meccano Marauder does not just lose because he goes up against the Avengers. In one issue of the Avengers, the team goes on the David Letterman show, and Fabian shows up to fight them. And the issue ends with him getting beat up by David Letterman. This guy, who's an Avengers villain, lost the fight to talk show host David Letterman. That is a thing that happened in the comics. What a loser.
Oh my god. Again, so he's like essentially just a joke character. Right.
Yeah, but he has like 15 different appearances. Admittedly, he's never the main villain, but this is a dude who should be strong in theory. Like, for instance, there's an issue where he creates an army of robot duplicates of the Avengers and still gets his ass kicked. Because he's just such a loser. He lost a fist fight to Letterman.
You said he has a suit of power armor, right?
Yeah. From what I can tell, his suit gives him increased strength and durability, but doesn't have any really cool things. Also, he's built robot armies a few times. For instance, he built an army of robots to fight David Letterman.
Wow.
But he didn't wear his suit because he's an idiot and got knocked out in a single punch by David Letterman.
Wow. Okay.
Actually, no, that's inaccurate. David Letterman picked up a box from below his desk and slammed it on his head while he wasn't looking.
So essentially, he was a rich guy who said, I want to be an Avengers villain. And every time he fucking does anything, the Avengers are like, sit down, kid.
Yeah, like, I saw some stuff from the comics. There are a few times where he shows up to fight them, and they just ignore him. There's a time where a bunch of the Avengers are sitting down, having a meeting, and he shows up to fight them, and they just all leave because he's not worth the effort.
Yeah, that sounds really stupid.
He eventually realized that being a supervillain wasn't his thing. So he decided to try and become an Avenger, and they rejected him because he was a loser.
Mm-hmm.
But, bright side, he got a job working as part of their support staff, like maintaining their equipment and stuff.
Okay.
And then he got fired because of his meth addiction. And after that, he moved in with Captain America for a while?
Why is there so much story with this guy? Like, that's my question.
I don't know. He has like 30 different appearances. Although, I guess Marvel decided that he's too lame to use anymore because his last appearance was in 1999.
Okay. But still, it's like you have a crossover with David Letterman for some reason. Why would Marvel do that? I don't know. Why would you take a character that can get beaten up by David Letterman holding a box and A, why would you bring him in like 30 issues? And B, why would you even flesh out his character so much to where it's like, oh yeah, he's a meth addict who works for the Avengers and has turned a new leaf and he's roommates with Captain America for some God knows what reason. Like, God, that is just bizarre.
And I'm gonna say it, I don't think this guy could ever not be lame.
I know. I don't think so either. He is, by his own definition, just the lamest thing on the planet. And God, it is stupid.
What's your number 4, Riley?
My number 4 is the X-Men villain turned hero, Maggot. Maggot was born in South Africa under the name Japheth. When he was a boy, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer as he was suffering from severe stomach pains and could not hold down food without throwing it up. At 12 years old, he ran away from home into the Kalahari Desert in an attempt to take his own life, as to not let his family watch him suffer any longer. However, in the Kalahari Desert, he was found by Magneto because, Magneto's just hanging around the Kalahari Desert, as he does, and he discovers this boy who, turns out, does not have stomach cancer. He is a mutant. Again, getting back to this idea of Marvel's writers getting really far out with their mutants, he discovers that as part of his mutation, not only does it eventually start turning his skin blue, but the reason why he cannot keep down food and is having stomach pains is because he cannot ingest food the normal way. His mutation is that he has 2 giant sentient slugs living within his intestinal tract. And at any given moment, Maggot can eject these slugs from his body and they can eat through anything. And the reason why he can't eat is because the slugs have to eat for him. When they enter back into his body, they give him the nutrients that he needs to survive. And the slugs are both named Eenie and Meanie.
Why doesn't he have a third one named Mo Marvel? I mean, seriously.
Because that would be weird, Casey. That would be weird. 2 slugs is cool. 3 sentient slugs that can eat through anything, including concrete and stainless steel, all that. That's cool. 3 slugs? Dude, come on. That's just stupid. No, he was a villain who eventually became a hero, and he has actually quite fairly been present for a while in the X-Men comics. So, Casey, do you think that this character can be cool?
God, it's like they saw Toad and were like, now this guy's too cool. We need a worse version.
Exactly.
Do the maggots he shoots out at people, are they like really deadly maggots?
Yeah, they can eat through anything.
I guess maybe he could be redesigned as like a horrifying body horror villain that creates swarms of maggots that just devour people. Although the fact that he's become a hero means that's probably not going to happen.
No. I mean, again, getting back to what I said about Matter Eater Lad, it's like when your superpower is eating, that's not cool. Like, that's lame out the gate, you know? Having two giant slugs that you can eject from your body that live in your intestinal tract, that's fucking disgusting. Why? Why is this a thing? And again, I went through so many X-Men mutant characters in the Marvel Universe. And again, this is not the last mutant to be on this list. But I had to go through a lot. I did a lot of thinking. And this one and one other one that's on this list. I tried to limit myself to the amount of stupid, lame mutants Marvel has, but Maggot made the cut. He's got blue skin, and he has two giant slugs that do his fighting for him and keep him alive. And it's just gross and weird, and why is this a thing?
Yeah.
It's like, when you have a character that's so absurdly silly like that, I don't think you can make it cool.
No. On to my number 3. Let's talk about Ten-Eyed Man.
Oh, let's.
Yeah, he's perhaps the most infamously dumb Batman villain. His backstory. Philip Reardon was a special forces soldier working in Vietnam when a grenade went off in his face, partially blinding him. After returning to the US, he got a job working as a security guard. One night, some robbers broke into the warehouse he was guarding and planted a bomb. Then Batman showed up to stop them, and Reardon, half blind, mistook Batman for a robber and got in a fistfight with Batman. And then the bomb went off, and it blinded Reardon. He underwent an experimental surgery to restore his sight in the dumbest possible way by attaching his optic nerves to his fingertips so he has eyes on his fingers, as opposed to, I don't know, attaching his optic nerves to his face.
Right.
Or really any place but his fingers.
Right.
And that's him. He's Ten-Eyed Man. He's the guy who has eyes on his fingertips. You might be thinking, hey, that sounds kind of cool. And then you realize everything he picks up, he's basically putting in his eyes. Eat some hot wings. You're pouring hot sauce in your eye. Pick up a rock. You're stabbing yourself in the eye with a rock. Wipe your ass. You are staring into your anus. He doesn't have a power. He's weaker than a normal person.
And he's gonna get pink eye, too.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, theoretically, he can move his hands around to get better view,
Right.
like Neji from Naruto.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, what's he gonna do with that? What's he gonna do? Punch you with his eyeballs?
He's gonna give himself a black eye every time he punches Batman.
I found a moment in the comics where he puts on gloves before bed, and then when he wakes up, he freaks out because he can't see.
Oh my god. Honest to God. Like, it's stupid stuff like that they have to do. Like...
No, I love Ten-Eyed Man, but God, he's dumb.
I know. Like, honestly, having eyeballs on your fingers... that's a pretty interesting horror movie villain. Like, I would like to see that in, like, maybe an Insidious movie. The designs they have for some of the villains in the Insidious franchise are really clever, and it seems like having just a demon with eyes for fingers, like, that would kind of be visually interesting and creepy to look at. Or maybe, I don't know, when I think of having eyeballs on your hands, it's like I always go to the Guillermo del Toro film Pan's Labyrinth, where one of the villains is this horrifying, deformed monster. And, well, it has its eyeballs in its hands, and it can pop them out whenever it wants. And to act like it has eyes on its head, he puts the backs of his hands up against his face, and on his face he just has these claws. And having eyes for fingers, it seems creepy. Not necessarily scary, but creepy. And it can be done in a great horror context, but when you're a hokey Batman villain, it's just stupid.
And you know what's the dumbest part about Ten-Eyed Man?
What?
His motives are stupid. He wants revenge on Batman because Batman blinded him.
Right.
Even though Batman didn't blind him. And he can see again. So he fights Batman a few times, gets beat up, he gets thrown in prison, and while he's in prison, they put his hands in a metal box because, and I quote, if he could see, escape would be child's play for him. How would he escape from prison?
Exactly.
Why do you need to blind him? Once in the comics, he got broken out of prison by a mysterious organization so he could fight Man-Bat.
Okay.
I don't know why they didn't choose another villain, but anyway, he tried to take out Man-Bat by throwing a flash grenade at him. It didn't work because Man-Bat has echolocation powers, but the flash grenade blinded Ten-Eyed Man, who then walked off. the building. In Batman the Brave and the Bold, Batman defeats him by throwing a cactus at him, which he catches and stabs himself in the eye. In Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, it is mentioned that Ten-Eyed Man used to be a part of the squad, but he died after the neck bomb he has accidentally blew up. Also, that kind of implies that the Suicide Squad will hire literally anyone.
They will. Oh my god, they will.
Ultimately, Ten-Eyed Man was killed off in Crisis on Infinite Earths on a special request from artist Marv Wolfman. I don't know why he hates Ten-Eyed Man, but he was killed off because Marv Wolfman really hated him. So, could this character ever be cool?
Like I said, in a completely different context with a completely different character, like in a horror movie, that would work for a villain, but not in this context, not as a Batman villain necessarily. Or maybe, I suppose it could work as like kind of similar to what they've done with Clock King. How Clock King started off as just this, ooh, he's a robber, and his theme is that he wears a clock and he's very good at timing. But it's like, what they've done recently is they make him a guy who sits behind a computer screen and is like, okay, I'm the guy who made the plan. I don't know, maybe someone having 10 eyes for fingers, it's like, theoretically they could be good at something like that, but no, I don't think so.
There was a story where he tried to get revenge on Batman by luring Batman to Vietnam, and they fought in, like, minefields and punji pits, like the ruins of the Vietnam War. And, hey, him being a Spec Ops soldier who is fighting in a jungle against Batman, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Except, no, it isn't, because he's Ten-Eyed Man, which makes him the weakest soldier ever. He has to stick the trigger of the gun in his eyeball to fire. Also, that story ended with him being defeated after tripping and falling in a pool of mud and getting mud on his eyes.
Okay.
God, he's a loser. And he's not even the worst hero I found!
Oh, no.
Or worst villain I found! What's your number 3, man?
My number 3 is another mutant in the Marvel Universe. His name is Skin. Now, his real name is Angelo Espinosa, and his power is elasticity. Now, elasticity is a cool power. Characters like Mr. Fantastic, Plastic Man, Elongated Man, Elastigirl from The Incredibles. There are really cool and interesting characters that have this power. Skin, on the other hand, is not cool. He can only extend his limbs 6 feet. And the reason why he can only extend 6 feet is because the reason why he has elasticity is because his mutation is that he just has 6 feet of extra skin that he's able to throw and pretend to be elasticity.
Ew.
Like, have you ever seen the Austin Powers movies, Casey?
Are you referring to how at the end of the trilogy, Fat Bastard goes on the Jared from Subway diet? Side note, that line aged really bad. But anyway, he goes on the Subway diet and loses a bunch of fat, but he just has all the excess skin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hanging from him like roast beef.
Imagine that, but 6 feet worth of that extra skin.
Oh, God.
And it's gray.
Ew. He's grosser than maggots.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking hell. He is the second mutant that I have on here, and he's the last mutant. But yeah, his power is that he just was born with so much extra skin, he can throw it and catch it onto things, and it acts like elasticity. The problem is he can only elongate himself 6 feet, because that's as far as his extra skin will let him.
I mean, elasticity, even limited, isn't that bad of a power. It's just the really gross visual of it. And the fact that he's named Skin.
Yeah.
Just, no, he's not cool.
Exactly. No, there's no way they can make him cool. Like, they tried to do something different with elasticity, but it's just disgusting and off-putting. It's bad.
Yeah.
Funny thing about this, though, they made a film, I believe, called Generation X. It was kind of like New Mutant style type film, from what I understand. Nobody saw it. I don't know how it got released. I don't know what happened with it. Skin was featured in the movie as a rather important character in it. But just to think, we got Skin in a movie. It's crazy. It's gross and it's crazy. He didn't have, like, the extra feet of skin, because I'm sure that would have just been off-putting and terrible, but he just has elasticity.
Hold on. I did not know that thing was a thing that exists. I'm looking it up right now, and it looks awful. I'll put it on the list of movies to think about, because, oh man, that looks lame.
While you're at it, add the movie The Man Thing.
Oh, right. They made a movie out of Man-Thing. Not even out of Swamp Thing, who's the cool one. Out of Man-Thing.
Yeah, and it was straight to Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
I would like to see that one. Can skin be cool? No, I don't think it can. Elasticity is a cool superpower, but at the expense of having 6 feet of gray, saggy, wrinkly skin? No. No, 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 no.
So you went through all the mutants. I went through all of the Legion of Superheroes. Because the Legion of Superheroes is kinda infamous for the sheer amount of ridiculous, lame characters that have appeared. We've already mentioned Matter Eater Lad, Bouncing Boy, and Arms Fall Off Boy. But there are so many more. There are 2 entire different teams comprised of superheroes rejected from the Legion for being lame. Admittedly, the one that I'm going to say is a one-off joke character, but just let that be what we're calling lame. The fact that the Legion of Superheroes has featured so many lame characters that they have 2 entire teams worth of rejects. That are called the Legion of Substitutes Heroes and their evil counterpart, the League of Rejects.
Wow.
But anyway, the worst of the worst. Went through, tried to find the lamest, and honestly, I couldn't. There were 2 candidates that were just so incredibly lame, I'm having them share the number 2 spot. Or, if I'm being honest, 3 candidates? It's weird. The first is Frank and David Retson, aka Double Header, a pair of conjoined twins. That's their power, they're conjoined twins. Twins who hate each other, by the way.
Wow.
They're kicked off the team for being lame.
That's and what is their power? They're just conjoined twins?
Yeah, that's not a superpower.
But that's what? What the hell? Like their power is being conjoined twins, which is not a superpower?
Yeah.
What
And
the
like,
fuck?
And on the other hand, we have Estimate Lad, who has the power of estimation.
Okay.
He has the power of estimation, Riley. He can guess how big things are, and his guesses are like 90% accurate. Truly, the greatest superpower.
I mean, that would be useful in a game of blackjack in Vegas.
No, it wouldn't, because his guesses are only 90% accurate. Like, if it was 100% accurate, I mean, he wouldn't be a good superhero, but he would be great in the private sector. But if his guesses are wrong, he's just worthless. In fact, I would argue that he doesn't even have a power, because most people can estimate how big things are. And I don't know who is lamer. I'm gonna let you decide this. Doubleheader or Estimate Lad? Who is the lamest?
Honestly, I'm probably gonna go double header because it's like, what the hell? Like that's not a power. Estimation Lad, that could conceivably kind of be useful. How big is that thing? Oh, it's this big. Well, I don't know. There's like a 1 in 10 he's wrong. So, I don't know. I like those odds. But like, just 2 random conjoined twins that are arguing the entire time. What's the point of that? Like, that is literally useless.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. They're both equally terrible, but I don't know. The fact that they don't even really have powers, they're just stupid.
I don't think we even need to discuss this. Neither of these characters could work.
Not at all, no.
And they are not even my worst. Oh god.
So, for my number 2, I put Hindsight Lad.
Oh god. Never heard of him, but I got a feeling based on that name exactly what he is.
Oh, yeah. A man named Carlton Lafroige lived in an apartment building, and his next-door neighbor, he believed, was the superhero Speedball. Speedball at the time was a part of the New Warriors. Eventually, through a series of misadventures and accidents and all that, Carlton eventually became what is essentially Speedball's sidekick, and therefore the sidekick of the New Warriors, dubbing himself Hindsight Lad. His power? Hindsight. He is by definition supposed to be the most annoying, obnoxious, useless, idiotic character. He's literally just around to tell the other superheroes who are actually kind of doing something, oh, it would have been so much better had you done this instead. Now, there's a character in the show South Park. There was a few episodes where they were basically doing their own superhero characters and fighting crime and doing all that. And the reoccurring joke through those episodes was there were all these crazy accidents that were happening, like the BP oil spill was going on when that happened. And the reoccurring joke was whenever there was a crime happening, like someone was murdered or the BP oil spill, it's like Captain Hindsight will fly from his mansion or his wherever he is, and everyone's in awe. Look, it's Captain Hindsight! And Captain Hindsight will get to the scene and be like, oh, this person was murdered? Well, they shouldn't have walked down that dark alleyway at night by themselves. And then he'll fly away, and that will have been his contribution to this crime. And everyone's like praising him. Thank you, Captain Hindsight. Thank you. And he's like, I'm just doing my job.
Ugh.
It's stupid, but it's South Park stupid because it works as a satire. But the fact of the matter is, that character, minus the flight, Marvel legitimately tried to make a thing decades earlier. Hindsight Lad literally has no powers. His power is just to stand there and tell everyone what they did wrong. And the dumbest part about him, in my opinion, is his helmet. He has like a giant, like round helmet with car side mirrors on the sides of it, sticking out.
Oh god, that isn't just useless, it's so on the nose.
He can't even use the side mirrors because they're away from his eyes.
And Riley, here's something you haven't mentioned that we need to know to really understand how lame this character is.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have any powers, or is he just an annoying guy?
He's just an annoying guy.
Oh, so he doesn't even have, like, really good explanations of what went wrong. He's just there.
Yeah, he was, by definition, supposed to be this annoying fanboy that no one likes. And they did a very good job of writing him that way.
Think he could ever work?
I'm reminded of the Incredibles villain Syndrome, who is this obnoxious fanboy who Mr. Incredible pisses off and tells him he's worthless. So now he becomes this supervillain and kills all these heroes and actually becomes a formidable opponent. The fact of the matter is, Syndrome is actually a very intelligent young man.
Yeah, he's like a tech-based villain.
Yeah, he made billions by inventing all these crazy technology. Hindsight Lad, in theory, could be a character where you're like, he's smarter than everyone, he can outthink everything. But the fact of the matter is, he's just nothing. He's just a guy who sits there and says, oh, you should have done this differently. It's so stupid. No, I don't think he could work. No, I don't think he could be cool.
On to my absolute worst. The worst comic character I could ever find. I mean, maybe Estimate Lad or Doubleheader is lamer, but this guy takes the cake for just having such dumb plans. So, on this list, my number 2 was lame powers. My number 3 was someone who can't use their arms. My number 4 was a guy who has bad motives. This guy has all of that.
Okay.
Riley, do you know what the Electric Company is?
I do not.
In the 70s, it was an educational sketch comedy show that ran on PBS. A reoccurring skit on the show was called Spidey Super Stories, featuring Marvel Comics' flagship hero, Spider-Man, and no other comic characters. And also, side note, the Electric Company was the first live-action show to feature Spider-Man, and the second live-action Marvel adaptation period, beat only by the 1940s Captain America serial that killed the guy who played Captain America. Anyway, one episode of this show was a skit called Spidey Up Against the Wall. It featured Spider-Man going up against a terrifying new villain named The Wall. The Wall's backstory? He was a high school student who made an incredible blunder during a chemistry experiment that turned him into a wall. Somehow. Riley, I posted some images in the Discord chat that we use to do our conversations. I want you to look at those and describe this villain for the audience.
Oh, good God. He is a man wearing a costume in the shape of a bunch of bricks, and he's got a brick for a head. And he's a brick wall with no arms, no neck, just a torso and hips of a fucking wall, a head of a brick, and he's got 2 legs sticking out the bottom.
Yeah.
Good God.
According to the narration, he then, after being transformed into this by a chemistry experiment, set out to ruin everyone's day. So Spidey, he goes to a Mets game. He's eating a hot dog. He's having fun. His favorite player's about to catch a ball when the wall just runs onto the field and slams into him. And the ball flies over the wall's head. So it's a home run because the ball went over his head. And he's a wall. And that's how baseball works, right, Riley?
Of course, yeah.
Well, apparently not. because as soon as this happens, an umpire, who by the way was played by Morgan Freeman, yes, that Morgan Freeman, runs up to the wall and yells at him for cheating because no, that isn't how baseball works. You can't dress up like a wall and have balls that go over your head counted as home runs.
What?
Yeah. The wall beats up Morgan Freeman.
Fuck.
Spidey runs onto the field with his hot dog. The wall gives a great line. Look at this guy. He's so dumb he's trying to eat a hot dog with no mouth. Because Spidey, he's eating a hot dog while wearing his mask because it was very cheesy. Anyway, another thing that he shares with a previous villain on my list, being beat up by a non-superhero.
Uh-huh.
He gets defeated because Morgan Freeman umpire comes on and kicks him and Spider-Man off because they aren't allowed on the field because they aren't players.
Okay.
So why am I bringing up this ridiculous segment from a children's TV show in the 70s? Isn't this episode titled The Lamest Comic Book Characters?
Yeah.
Well, you see, there was a comic book adaptation of Spidey's Super Stories published by Marvel Comics. As a side note, that is where the Thanos copter comes from. This comic featured a direct adaptation of Spidey up against the wall. You know, the one where the supervillain with no arms walked onto a baseball field and pretended to be a wall so his favorite team would get a home run when the ball went over his head. Then got defeated by Morgan Freeman pointing out that baseball has rules. And here's the thing. As I said when I talked about US 1, everything Marvel Comics publishes is canonically part of the Marvel multiverse. And this isn't just me being pedantic about it. This version of Spidey, like from the Electric Company show, showed up in the Spider-Verse crossover event, meaning that the Wall and the Thanos copter are canon to Marvel Comics. This guy exists in Marvel Comics. What the hell?
Oh my god. Wow. I kind of don't even know what to say.
After this episode, you should, both you, Riley, and the audience, you should just look up the skit, because it's so dumb. It's charmingly dumb. Can you beat that with your number one? And no, he can't be cool. Can you beat that with your number one, Riley?
Well, I'm certainly going to try. My number one lamest comic book character is a man with no alias. He only goes by his supervillain name. That name is Dog Welder.
Oh god, that's so dumb!
Filmmaker James Gunn considered including him in the upcoming The Suicide Squad film, and decided against it for obvious reasons I will get into. But when you have a movie with teammates like Arm Fall Off Boy, Weasel, and whoever the hell they're gonna get for that movie, when the filmmaker who's writing this is deciding against characters for being too disgusting and lame and whatever, you know that's saying something. Especially James Gunn, who has made some really messed up horror movies. Dog Welder, his power is he welds dead dogs to his enemies' faces. Now, I have a question for the universe. Where does he find these dead dogs? Where does he keep these dead dogs? How does he carry these dead dogs around with him when he's committing crimes?
Stop laughing.
Where did he get this incredibly fucked up idea? Is welding a dog carcass to a human face even possible? This man...
Yeah, because welding means to join two pieces of metal by heating them. Does he staple the dogs to people's faces and call it welding? Because in that case, he needs to get a dictionary. Or is he somehow, against the laws of physics, actually welding a dog to someone's face?
He has
not just burning the dog. And not just burning the dog corpse. Holy crap.
This man picked up a blowtorch. This man picked up a blowtorch, picked up a dead dog, and said, I am going to weld this man's face to the dead dog. That is this man's power. This man was... James Gunn said that this man is too stupid and too disgusting to put in his new movie. He welds dead dogs to his enemies' faces.
You win. You win, Riley. I can't beat that.
Had you not heard of this character before?
No! Oh god, I'm so glad I hadn't. That was... Oh, I could not stop laughing.
I can't. Who comes up with this shit? Like, seriously. I can't. What? Like, that's what upon researching all of this, that, like... It's like, who the fuck comes up with this shit?
Hold on.
Like, seriously.
Who came up with it? Well, let's see. He is a member of the team Section 8.
Right.
Which is, from, who wrote it? Who wrote that? Garth Ennis. That is who. Of course it was Garth Ennis.
Right.
You know, the guy who made Hellblazer and Preacher.
But another member, upon my research, Six Pack, another member of Section 8, again, by definition, is just one of the lamest characters ever. I don't even know his powers, he's just a fat guy.
Then why is he called Six Pack?
Because of beer? I don't know. I don't know. But Dog Welder is Dog Welder is the lamest comic character of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm also gonna say he's the lamest ever. Oh, God. And I think that's a good place to stop, because Oh, God, you broke me, Riley.
Yeah, it's fucked. It's so crazy. Some of the shit people come up with, like, on my list, there's Matter Eater Lad, whose power is he can eat anything and everything. There's a guy with giant slugs that live in his intestinal tract and he can shoot out at any given time. There's a guy with 6 feet of extra skin just on his body at all times. There's a guy who just stands around and says, you could have done this better. But my number one is a man who welds dead dogs to people's faces with a blowtorch.
That's so lame. That is lamer than a guy whose power is being a trucker, then the villain who got beat up by David Letterman, then Ten-Eyed Man, then Estimate Lad, then Doubleheader. That's even lamer than The Wall.
God damn. What is this world come? May God have mercy on our souls.
Riley, where can they find you?
You can all find me on TikTok and Instagram at Riley James Thorpe. You can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Riley Thorpe. I just uploaded my new short film Pizza Face to my YouTube channel, so check it all out. I hope you all enjoy.
Yeah, if you ever want to see Riley be a serial killer with really bad acne who at one point gets smacked in the face and all the zits pop and I vomited in my mouth when I watched it, then go check that out.
Thank you.
Although,
Thank you.
Riley, I hate to say it, you aren't as fucked up as Garth Ennis. Maybe if you invented Dog Wielder, but no.
Nope.
No.
No. Good God.
You can find me on Twitter at Jarmes Casey, JARMESCASEY. Also check out the first mag train out of Cleveland and other short stories, available now on Amazon. We'll be back next week, assuming we don't get dogs welded to our face. Oh God, Garth Ellis, what is wrong with you? Next episode we'll be talking about Iron Man, which is good, because this episode has taken all of my mental energy. As always, I'm Casey Jarmes.
And I am Riley Thorpe.
And hey, it's just a comic about dogs getting welded to people's faces. Don't lose your head about it. Especially not to Dog Welder.